Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Joel and Adam to talk about The Fate of Lee Khan, a 1973 King Hu film. In this movie, Lee Khan, a high official under Mongolian Emperor Shen of the Yuan dynasty in the year 1366, procures the battle map of the Chinese rebel Chu Yuan Chang. Rebel spies, aided by treachery within Khan's ranks, strive to corner him in an inn. So that's the breakdown from IMDb with a mild correction because of some weird errors in it. But I guess my first question for you guys is, does that synopsis capture the film for you, or do you think it's a broken synopsis?
I mean, okay, so the question to me is the synopsis about a description of the sequence of events in a film, or is the synopsis supposed to actually describe the emotional experience and the purpose of the creation of the film? Because if you just told me like a dry accounting of the story of the Seven Samurai, you didn't get
Mm,
across like what the Seven Samurai is
yeah.
about. I think you fundamentally failed as a synopsis, right? So in
It's
that
like
sense, like,
saying Lord of the Rings is about taking a ring to a volcano and walking a
right,
long
like,
distance to
I mean,
get there. Yeah.
that's, and you can put a lot of detail in that, right? But it wouldn't be what it's about. So, like, I think in that way, it kind of fundamentally fails. It's
Hmm.
more or less accurate. I mean, like, you did correct it, at least with the dynasty name was disastrously wrong, but like, yeah, I mean, it's okay. I mean, Rashomon is just about people talking in a broken
People,
gate.
people
Well,
remembering things.
what
Yeah, they're remembering things
so
incorrectly.
for those who don't know, before we start, I suppose, King Hu's a legendary director. He did Dragon Inn, he did A Touch of Zen, he did Come Drink with Me, a bunch of movies, and we've covered them on.
Absolute, all of those are absolute classics, by the
Yeah.
way. If you've not watched any of them, go watch all of them.
Hmm.
And so the question is, what did you guys think of this movie? What was your reaction to it? Um,
We had ideal circumstances, both of us, for watching this movie. Me and Adam.
yeah, there were,
Well,
well, watching movies under trying conditions can sometimes also be revealing, right?
I
So,
really
what-
enjoyed it, so it didn't really. I did not have. I had complications, but they did not get in the way.
that's good to hear. All right, what'd you
Yeah.
like about it?
What I like,
Yeah,
it
what'd you like?
it was really very much an espionage movie when you get down to it. It's an espionage movie with kung fu, and so I loved the way all the characters slowly creep into the movie. The way you're trying to figure out, is this guy another spy, or is he one of the scouts coming for Lee Khan? That whole early part of the movie was just fantastic, and it's like all these things you think are just random events, but no, they're actually part of it. And it's Brendan always mentions how King Hu movies can be kind of slow, but I found this
Ooh,
very
yeah.
breezy. It was like something was always happening. There was always something you were wondering about. I like King Hu movies overall, so maybe I don't have a good perspective on that, but no, I thoroughly enjoyed this all the way through.
Well, you could enjoy like Kurosawa movies and still like have a real reasonable critique about a given movie. Like, no, this was a good movie in its own right. Even if you ignore his breathtaking filmography, you're right. This is a movie that it's very good at grabbing your attention, right? It's very good at setting its time and place. It's very
Hmm.
good at like figuring out what your attention needs to be focused on, and then kind of anticipating what you're thinking about, what questions you have,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it
exactly.
really shows it's an absolute mastery of that. That it's not, I mean, it's tense, but it's also, like you said, it's breezy. I was never there's never a point where I like felt uncomfortable watching this film, although there's some
Yeah,
incredibly tense parts of it. It kind of has a Tarantino energy. I was noticing a few
yeah,
times.
yeah,
I was like, that
it's
looks
got
like a Tarantino shot.
yeah.
it's got
I,
big
And
I'd
like
echo that.
Tarantino energy. Yeah, big Tarantino energy for sure. Um, I'd say in a couple of ways. Number one, I think you can divide this movie into two parts. There's
Hmm.
oh
the
yeah,
beginning before Lee Khan arrives, which is like the build up to his arrival, but they're also using that to establish this sense of place. And I think
Hmm.
they do a really great job of focusing on the the point of view of the restaurant, like the inn. So like in this, Dragon Inn is sort of the more famous of his inn movies, maybe, but and maybe Come Drink with Me, I suppose, if you include that as part of the in trilogy. But this one, more than the others, you get a real sense of, oh, this is taking place at an inn that really exists, that has a staff that are doing things, and you
Yeah.
are seeing everything kind of from their perspective. Even though, ironically, it's sort of a facade for an attempt to assassinate him. But then the second part of the movie is when Lee Khan arrives, and I feel like at that point, like even the way the inn is shot changes. Like everything starts to shift around. That's why I wanted to talk a lot about angles and stuff like that. And suddenly you go from this movie where the proprietress of the inn is in power to suddenly Lee Khan is in total control of everything. And I think that what's really fun about the filmmaking is how things like angles and dialogue are used to sort of all establish that. And again, it feels very much like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the breakdown of the Pulp Fiction scene with Samuel L. Jackson in the apartment where he shoots the guy on the couch and he's, talking about hamburgers. Yeah. But there's a breakdown that talks about the use of angles in that scene and the use of dialogue to establish who's in power. And I kept thinking about that breakdown of that scene when I was watching the movie this time. So yeah, I don't know.
The character of the film totally changes when he shows up. Like it really shifts because it does. It goes from being, I almost want to say lighthearted. It's more than lighthearted though. It's a very like it's a light touch on everything. You're just kind of hanging out with these characters, and it's like it's like this impermeable but very thin membrane between this and like a Korean version of Seinfeld almost, where it's like it's funny. There's all these fun characters
I see what you mean.
and like.
Yeah,
it's not quite like it doesn't ever go over to being comedy, but it has that same lightness to it. And then as soon as he shows up, it's all like downward up facing angles, and it's like really intense and claustrophobic. Like you really, even like they clear the inn out, so there's more space, and yet you feel trapped in here with this guy. Like it's a real sweatbox. Completely different energy.
I wanted to watch it again to sort of assess the angles again, but I feel like one thing that they do when he shows up, number one, like you mentioned, they rearrange all the furniture so the inn looks different once he's there. But then they also keep doing these, like, there's a lot of close-ups in the movie, but they really start giving you these real close-up shots of Lee Khan and of his sister, but then they pan away and give you a sense of the space too. And I think that helps create some of the stuff that you're talking about there, where it's like you get these claustrophobic up close shots of him, but then you also get a sense of his power over the room with like the other characters sort of just obediently standing in line, flanking him.
They're always like on the ground, or like, and they're always like, there's always all this space around them. Like they're so naked in front of them.
Yeah. Even when they're standing, like when the staff is all kind of standing in that, that kind of a V kind of formation. It's like they are kind of isolated. They seem complete. They're standing at that point. But they seem completely trapped and powerless. That's now you're right about that. The use of both kind of shots there, because the early part of the movie, the shots are all they're shots where you're kind of watching everything going on. There's just so much going on. You're kind of observing the end. Whereas later in the movie, you're looking at very particular things rather than this kind of chaotic, organic scene.
Yeah, the beginning's very jovial. It's very sort of like they're planning the it's like something you could extrapolate it to sort of like regular life, where it's like the planning phase where everything is fun and full of hope. But then when he comes, it's like, okay, now things are really happening, and the plan, and it's interesting too, because there's actually scenes early in the movie that mirror scenes later in the movie. So the scene where she steals the pearl from the official's hat, and then she has to give it back, and it's done very playfully, and the consequence for her is fairly light as a result. But then later in the movie, another one of the waitresses tries to steal the map. She takes a letter by mistake, and she has to put it back because the map's actually on his person. And the consequence for her is that she ends up getting killed when she goes to put the object back. And, I like that the movie sort of does that with, like, you have this earlier part of the film where you can just kind of juxtapose so much of the earlier part of the movie with the later part. And I really like that early part, like that first half. you again, I just think, it pays dividends really setting up like this. Like, I don't know, if you've worked in a restaurant, it feels
Oh
real.
yeah, definitely.
Like,
It does. Well, that's the kind of energy you have with your staff, right? Like no one's ever
Yeah.
perfect. Everyone's got their own little thing, and you kind of wind up managing them and the randomness of the customers and finding that middle ground. So that felt really. I felt very seen by that all that interplay.
I feel like when I watch Dragon Inn, like the inn is great in Dragon Inn, but it doesn't feel as real of a place to me as this
No.
inn does. And I like to imagine like King Hu, like maybe more focused on the intrigue in Dragon Inn and the tension. And then he's spending time at a restaurant or an inn or whatever, and he's observing, like I feel like this is a more studied attempt at making an inn scene in terms of bringing all of the machinery of daily life in an inn or a restaurant to life. And so I think that's one of the things that really stands out to me. And he does it in a way where it's like, you're also building all the characters up. Like you have these waitresses that are all kind of like it's sort of like the ultimate sort of kick-ass assassin squad, but they're all these like low life, like, people of ill repute that are now sort of in this inn, waiting for Lee Khan to show up so that they can kill him. But yeah, I don't know. I really I like the details of the movie. I think it gets like the ground level details of the inn, just spot on. And also the other thing. Go ahead.
It does. I was flashing back to my time as a waiter because I don't know the day-to-day triumphs and foibles of being in a kitchen. Like, it really gets them correctly. And it's kind of miraculous because like it's not as though King Hu like. Look at the films the dude has made, right? Like he's a brilliant filmmaker, and yet this is not below him. It's not beneath him to go and make certain that he truly understands like the sort of the weave of personality and circumstance that is like the true to life experience of just working at an inn. Man, that's really cool. It's quite a little accomplishment there.
And the whole movie takes place essentially in one location. Like they do, and a lot of King Hu movies are kind of like Dragon Inn also takes place in one location. This one just feels really confined for some reason. But I like. What was that?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. No,
I was gonna. King Hu in general is really good at getting these little daily life moments, like in Touch of Zen at the beginning when the main character just goes out and opens up his office and he's doing his painting and calligraphy type work. As someone that studied that kind of painting, it was like just really fun to watch that. I mean, even the Go game in this, it's like the Go game is like real Go. I was watching, whenever people play a game, I always like, are they really playing like the opening moves? I was like, yeah, that they're playing Go. It's
I caught that too. Yeah, and same with the dice too. Like it really felt like that's how people gamble on them, But yeah, the Go game stuck out to me because I had a friend of mine who was talking about learning how to play shogi, or I think it's how you say it's shogi, and I was like, oh, I know how to play Go, but I don't know how to play shogi. So apparently it's like the more chess, and like Go is a little more checkersy, I guess, is the distinction there.
Go isn't very checkersy.
Go is really complicated. Go is really complicated. But I
mean, like it's the actual game is really simple, but like the strategy is very
strategy. That's true. The rules are very simple.
Right. I think that attention to detail. I mean, again, he's kind of known for like his attention to detail and like the costumes in this are absolutely gorgeous, and I know that he has a tendency to like heavily research costuming and things, and I don't know how historically accurate it is, but
the costumes really stood out. They're beautiful, dude. The costuming's really good in this.
I mean, this is a movie. Oh, go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's like you've got these different cultures in the movie too, and it's just this really quick shorthand too. So they play an important role. They're not just visual. It's like you're like, okay, this guy's got a fur hat. He must be a Mongol.
and they also help distinguish characters and help they use the costuming for characterization and all these different things. But also something as simple as having one waitress in purple and one waitress in light
Yes.
green makes a huge difference in terms of following who's who. And but what I like about the costumes and the movie in general is just the overall aesthetics of the film. It just has like a beautiful quality. Like all of his movies look gorgeous, but this is a movie where like I feel like you can really see like it's like a photographer became a filmmaker. Do you know what I mean? Like you just have
that's
Yeah.
what it feels like.
Well,
Yeah.
going back to your one room point, it's like I feel like if a movie feels weak because it all takes place in one room, which in this case is a really big room,
yeah.
it's kind of a fault of the filmmaker. But when you're using camera angles and camera movement and stuff, you should be able to keep one location feeling fresh, and
Yeah.
he does that perfectly.
Well, that's the thing is he keeps the sense of movement inside this space.
Yes.
And it's kind of the opposite of Dragon Inn, where Dragon Inn is all about the movement that's not happening and anticipating the movement. And this one is like it's like this flurry of circular movement through the whole movie where the whole the thing just feels abuzz with life until Lee Khan shows up, and then, things start to get really tense. But also it's just like his ability, and we commented on this when we did A Touch of Zen, but just his ability to make you captivated by somebody walking from point A to point B is something that I've just always been fascinated by with King Hu.
Yeah.
Like, normally I'm not interested in, okay, the guy's walking from the door to the thing. But here it's like, this woman is walking, like in this like rocky region, and like something about the way it's shot is keeping my attention, and I don't know what it is. And there's a lot of shots, as we commented before the podcast, there's a lot of shots like that. What about the characters and their relationships?
There's a lot of characters in this movie.
I know. That's a big, complicated thought.
My favorite is Magistrate Ma and the proprietress. Just that,
that
that ongoing, which again connects, I think, to like, I talked before the podcast about how I feel like this movie actually had a lot of influence on films like New Dragon Inn, like the remake of Dragon Inn. And I feel like you can see that with the relationship between the proprietress and the magistrate.
That relationship alone adds just a lot of complexity. Because I mean, obviously it's the Han rebels versus the Mongols, but just having that one relationship in there really confuses the power dynamics during the early part of the movie.
And the way that she just has him wrapped around her little finger too. He's this powerful official, but he's like the weakest character in the movie because he's always stooped down. He just.
That's part of the reason why the early part is so comedic to an extent, because the big ruling guy in the area is kind of a buffoon, so it makes everything a little clownish. Once Lee Khan shows up, it's like, oh, okay.
Daddy's home once Lee Khan gets there, but.
Exactly.
But I like the relationship with the what was the head waitress lady and the other waitresses. I liked her a lot. The one who was wearing yellow the whole time.
I think that's the Angela Mao character. Was she the one?
Yeah.
Yellow.
Yeah. I think that was Angela Mao. Like I really liked her. Like because she felt like because she sort of does the job I do now, where she's like managing people and. Man, she nailed it. Where it's like she kind of has to know the personality quirks of the people that are under her, and she's kind of got to be broadly aware of the situation and play this social game with the customers. It was like, she kind of annihilated every scene she was in, and I was here for it. I liked her, and I think that she's kind of defined by her relationship with like the staff. So I thought that was really neat.
And that's the lady. That's the lady from the Broken Oath movie that we did before.
Really? I thought she looked familiar.
Yeah.
Like I usually don't.
That's why you see her kicking so much. That's why they utilize her kicking and all that. Yeah. That's another thing. Again, not to deviate too much from characters, because I want to talk about Lee Khan and his sister as well. But with the fight choreography, that was one of the interesting things. Is the waitresses mostly use open hand fighting. Most of the rebels seem to kind of heavily rely on open hand fighting, which makes a certain amount of sense if you're operating in an empire where they might control your access to weapons. But
that makes a lot of sense actually. And it also means that like they're pretty deadly as assassins, even if they're not obviously assassins, right? They can just do jobs, and then just their hands and feet are weapons. So
And
that,
it
that
creates an
stands.
interesting blend because this is sort of during the kung fu craze, but it's a nice balance of open hand kung fu and weaponry. And so you get like a really good blend of, just different weapons being used, as well as just that, I don't know, there's just something fun about, punching and kicking and throwing. So
Well, it is, and the weapons are used in such a deadly manner in this. Like
yeah,
the there's not a ton of fights in this film, and all of them
there's
feel like a big deal.
I think there's three before
Yeah,
anything really happens with Lee Khan. There's the guys that show up to rob the place. There's the gamblers, and then I
yep.
think those the guys that trash the place. It's not really a fight, but
Well,
the
I know what
soldiers
you
that
mean.
trash the place. Um, I do
Yeah.
love how the Prius has that big stick that she takes out when trouble
Yeah.
happens.
That's great.
But yeah, you're right in it. Like there are a number of places where people just flat out just get killed in one blow.
Yeah.
As opposed to it's like this could have been a fight scene, but it's like nope, there's dead stabbed.
Not how fighting
Well,
works. Yeah,
I
sometimes
feel
fights
like
are over quick.
I feel like King Hu doesn't let you off the hook as an action fan. He shows you the consequences of the death that happens in a way that's
Yeah.
not glib. And I think that's in keeping with King Hu's style. He kind of has a little
Yeah.
bit more of a, I don't know if I would say pacifist, but certainly he's not as war crazy as some of the other directors maybe. And so
Oh,
his attitude towards violence is a little bit more conflicted maybe, and I think that kind of comes across here.
Again, it reminds me of Tarantino, where sometimes it's for fun and sometimes it's really serious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
that was the big thing watching Pulp Fiction for the first time. All these sudden deaths, like Travolta suddenly boom, and
Yeah.
then
Yep.
the guy in the car boom, and
Boom.
you're like, wow. You only expect people to die in big action set pieces, but this
Yeah,
is,
but most of the time it's
dead.
one bullet, or one spray of bullets in his
Well,
case.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It's not the first death because I think the first death is the guy in the bathroom. I'm pretty sure. Isn't that the first person to die? The
Yeah,
guy-
and that's another quick one. Just
Yeah.
boom. They don't have
Yeah,
they don't have
it's-
a
it's-
fight
it's-
back
it's-
there. It's just
it's-
we don't even it's the sound effect. That's the fight.
Yeah, you just see his arm flailing behind the drape, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
just this very ignoble death in the bathroom. But the first one that really affects you as a viewer, I think, is the waitress. I think the green, the one in green, that's trying to put the letter back into the box, and she ends up getting
Yeah.
killed because her excuse.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
yeah.
That was
Yeah,
something.
that was tense, dude.
Yeah,
Man,
well,
it kinda-
that's
and I was trying to follow the movie, but I was watching it in a room with
And-
other people, and
She was
that-
deliberately trying to get caught on purpose so she could slip the letter back, right? Like when it got knocked off, because she knocked it off deliberately.
I don't know if
smashed
that was her
herself.
plan or not.
I-
I don't know. I don't know if she like improvised that when she got.
Yeah, I was
trying to figure
curious
that
because
out.
we never hear the plan. We know the plan's really dangerous, and it's like, did she think she was gonna? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's
I think
the plan failed.
I think they just meant going
Yeah.
back into the room would be dangerous.
yeah, you're probably right. I'm probably overthinking it,
But they did say, yeah, this isn't going to work, and it doesn't really work, and then things
Yeah.
kind of go to shit, and then but it leads to a cool scene where like Lee Khan is kind of like issuing all of these gifts, but then also expecting people to fall in line,
yeah.
and then and then in the last moment, I forget the guy's name, but one of the main characters attacks him, and then that kind of sets everything off. And that guy played the eunuch in Dragon Inn.
Okay.
That guy was.
And another
yeah,
face
the
I couldn't
music,
quite place.
the music goes nuts at that moment too,
Yeah.
where the fight, so everything's like exposed. It's like, okay, the tense scene is over, but the music at that part was fantastic.
One thing I wanted to talk about was I have a note that says "Curse of Lee Khan," and the reason why is when Lee Khan shows up, not only do the angles change and all that, but he just starts beheading people. Like he like they let you know that this guy is in charge.
Beheading
And-
his own people too. That's
Yeah.
something I found intriguing. It's not like it would have been easy just to make him, he's this guy going after the Han, but he's also just, are any of my men out of line, or any of them
Yeah.
abusing the locals? So like there is this just side to him, even though he's an incredibly cruel person. That really complicated his character.
And I think it's when he kills the guy at the beginning of the movie who kind of helps establish everything on the rebel side, the old man from the other
Yeah.
end. I think he's the one that says, Lee Khan, you shall have no children. And so again, he might just be saying that because he knows there's an assassin, going on. But I kind of feel like, oh, maybe like that's like a curse that he's issuing to Lee Khan. Like maybe that's the reason Lee Khan doesn't win, is this guy curses him to have no children.
Death curse going
on. Yeah.
So that was my weird idea that I wanted to sort of get your reaction to on.
No, I like that actually. That's
I feel like that's more thematic than anything else. I don't think there's actual like a death curse magic going on there. Like I somehow doubt that actually, because this is a pretty buttoned down movie. Nobody's doing the wuxia finger.
Well, I'm not picturing it like magic so much as like cosmic justice, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, and he really is. I think you guys are right in that there's a sense of like perverse justice around him, but he's just so evil,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's a real true villain. Like you feel good whenever he dies. It's a heck of a road to get there, though. Man, that guy is hard to kill.
Yeah, I know he's tough. Well, but that's the other thing. So the first thing I want to talk about is just in passing is the side pans, because Adam mentioned how the music shifts when the fight breaks out. That's also when you get these side pans that show the characters moving into position tactically, and I thought that was very effective. You get two side pans, one for like Lee Khan's sister, and then I think one for the rebels. And it just gives you, and I think Lee Khan might even get one too. And it was a really cool way to sort of show movement in that.
Not just showing movement, but showing the shift of circumstance, you know, as they go from like one mode into this like battle killing mode. I don't know. It kind of makes you, it makes you a lot more aware of the movement and the positioning, which I think is really important in a scene that has both action and tenseness, So yeah, again, I can't help but remember Tarantino. Like that's such a Tarantino thing to do, and I think he's the guy who like really made it famous and iconic over here on stateside. But like I kind of feel like King Hu must have been the guy doing it for the rest of the world.
Well, the other thing too is King Hu used a lot of the same actors throughout his movies. So like Zhu Feng is like, she's in Dragon Inn, she's in Touch of Zen, she's in Raining on the Mountain, she's in Legend of the Mountain, she's in this, she's in The Valiant Ones. Most of the other actors that you see here, with a couple of exceptions, are also in all those movies, but they're all playing very different roles in each of the films. And one of the things that I was thinking of was how much power a director of a film like this has in getting you to believe whatever they want you to believe about a particular actor. So like the guy playing the rebel who makes the first attack, and I can't remember his character's name in this. In Dragon Inn, he plays that invincible eunuch. And in this, he plays a much more, like a lower tier character. He's one of the good guys trying to defeat the more powerful guy. And so I just thought that was interesting that it doesn't even matter what the physique of the person is. He can just turn them into this, somebody who radiates power.
Yeah, it's the eye of the camera that endows them with that kind of danger, or the relative dangerousness. Yeah, that's a really good point. And again, Tarantino does that too, because you'll take a tiny little waif of a person, or at least a very thin person like Uma Thurman, and make her look like the biggest badass who ever wielded a katana. And it's like, well, she's probably not, though.
And in the wrong hands, that can fall apart so easily. That's why I think it's so important, because
anyone who tries to imitate Tarantino completely fails at it. Like name me like.
The 90s were littered with those movies.
Yeah, the corpses of Tarantino knockoffs litter the 1990s. It is a great graveyard of almost Tarantinos.
Yeah.
But yes, so I'm agreeing with you big time there, Brennan. There's much evidence that you are correct.
Yeah, I think, and again, and the actors in this are all really stellar. I particularly like Zhu Feng. She always plays kind of a character with a bit of an edge, but I like that she's really sort of fully, on the bad side in this one.
Which one was she in this one? Was she the one with the?
She was the sister. She's the sister. She's the princess, and so she's kind of she's kind of got like a mean face on the whole time. You know what I mean?
She did have a mean face.
Yeah, and she played the female swordswoman in A Touch of Zen. And in Dragon Inn, she played like one of the two kids that were being that they were getting dragged to the inn in chains, basically.
Oh, man.
So that's why if you watch Dragon Inn and then A Touch of Zen, in a weird way, you can almost see them as like, if you mess around with the details, like like it's a sequelish kind of thing. There's like a spiritual sequel.
It's been so long since you forced me to watch Touch of Zen, and I really remember being like surprised at how much I enjoyed it.
It wasn't that long ago. We watched it. When did we watch A Touch of Zen?
That was a while ago for me. You might have done it since then, but if you and me watching Touch of Zen, that was a bit ago, dude.
But didn't we do? Oh, maybe it was just Adam. Was that just you and me when we did Touch of Zen?
I haven't done Touch of Zen with you. I've watched it on my own.
Wait a second.
Watch this dementia patient go completely insane.
Okay, hold on. I gotta look something up now. Hold on.
Oh no,
you guys talk
I
about
Touch of Zen with you. I did. I'm thinking of the mountain one.
Okay.
Zhu of Magic Mountain one. Yeah, I remember.
No. The King.
It would be
different
Legend of the Mountain or Raining on the Mountain.
Not Raining on the Mountain. The other one.
Legend of the Mountain.
When did we do Touch of Zen? No, that was a while ago.
I thought we did it like a few months ago. Am I mistaken?
No, I'm thinking about Come Drink with Me. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm mistaken here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because Touch of Zen.
So who's the dementia patient now, folks?
Oh, 100% me. This is the second time I have been completely wrong today. I should not mess with these old men, folks. They're humiliating.
Well, no, you got to understand when you get an old man to think that he's incorrect about a basic fact like that, they have to like assess it immediately to make sure they don't have dementia or whatever. So, it was a pressing issue when you brought it up.
It's true.
Well, what a fire under your old man, Booby.
But
no, I was thinking about Come Drink with Me. That one we watched years ago, and I loved it. God, what?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened in Touch of Zen? Refresh my memory here. It's been
Touch
long
of Zen. He
enough
plays the scholar, and the swordswoman is part of this rebel group, and she's hiding in the neighboring residence, and he helps her stage a battle against the corrupt officials using tactics, and then she sleeps with him for one night. She goes to a monastery and has a baby, and then he goes and he gets the baby from her, and then they get chased through the woods. I'm giving a very horrible breakdown of it.
Yeah, this isn't ringing any bells at all. Wow.
Maybe
I do have dementia.
It's got the famous bamboo forest scene, and
the one that ever existed, huh?
Huh?
Like the famous bamboo forest.
But it's like the big one. It's. I mean, there's other ones from that era, but that's like the one that's like the really famous bamboo. When you used to get Touch of Zen on VHS, the image on the cover was like the woman in the bamboo forest, if I remember.
I gotta look it up. I'm totally blanking on this. Touch of Zen. Enjoy that ASMR, everybody.
That's yeah. Do you remember it now?
No.
Okay, hold on.
This is a hole in my memory. I know we talked about this.
I think we talked about it not that long ago. We'll see. I'm gonna see if I can find the episode and send it to you.
Link me. Yeah.
So you can see your past self.
Just being like, this was pretty good. I'll never forget this.
Yeah.
If I live to be 100 years old.
You know what it is? When you consume as much wuxia media as we consume, it does start to blur together after a while.
Well, here's one with you and Adam doing a Touch of Zen.
No, there's one. Yeah. Was it just me and Adam?
I think that was just the two of us. Yeah, it's when I first bought it on Blu-ray. You're like, we got to review this, and so.
Oh, okay, all right. So we're wrong. You're right. That was back in May.
Okay, no, so I wasn't on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just you and Adam.
So we just spent
dear Lord.
12 minutes, covering whether or not we talked about Touch of Zen.
And we've established firmly that you're of all of us, you are the most dementia patient. Thank God.
I wouldn't say most, but certainly.
It's okay. Give me a chance to buy Raining in the Mountain while you guys were arguing.
Okay.
So.
Well, we're definitely going to have to do. We will definitely have to do that movie because that one is. I don't want to set your expectations wrong because it's not like an action movie the way the other ones are.
Oh, I don't care. I like King Hu movies, whatever.
Yeah, since when is it being an action movie a prerequisite? Just
most of what we do on here is action oriented, so that's why action or horror. So if somebody's not getting killed or,
Well, I mean, but the ones I always really geek out about are the character driven ones. Like Like I think I've maybe stereotyped myself too much as the fist guy, but I actually really like good movies. They don't have to be all violent and terrible. I'd prefer that, obviously, but like, but no, Come Drink with Me is like one of my favorite ones we did because it was so character driven.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's great. That one's great. In fact, I have the new like 4K version of whichever one they just put out not too long ago. So I'd be happy to do it again if
Hot dog, yeah, no,
and
I'm
apparently
in.
I've got dementia, so it'll be, just like doing it the first time over again.
Totally fresh experience for
Yeah.
you. Oh god.
It's amazing how true that is, though. I'll watch, I watched this movie not too long ago, and then I was watching it this time. I'm like, wait a second, what happens next? It's like you forget all of
What
the.
does happen in this movie? Well, yeah, no, I've done that too. I don't know. I think it's just easy to get swept up in a movie where like you're not thinking about it in terms of, oh, I know everything that is going to happen. You're like in that moment, with it, and it's really vibrant. So and this is a movie that does that. Again, like I love Quentin Tarantino, and like I think I love
So
him
wait,
because,
why are we praising Quentin Tarantino every time we're trying to praise King Hu, though? That's what I'm
well,
confused.
I'm bringing it around. Let me go all the way around. I love Tarantino because he, like King Hu, has the ability to sweep you into the living like weight of the film. Right?
Okay.
You're a part of the fabric of this. Again, Kurosawa does this too, where like I've seen The Seven Samurai like a dozen times easily, and every single time I'm like, I don't even think about what happens next. I'm so invested in this moment, this character, this
I get you.
scene, this action. Like, and I think pretty much every Kurosawa film is like that. But like, there's only a few. Like Kubrick does it really well.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
Kubrick's another
there's a handful of directors that have ever lived. Spielberg obviously is one of them. But like, yeah, you can count them on like maybe one hand, maybe two. We might be incredibly lucky, but like, yeah, King Hu, he definitely has it. He has that
Yeah.
spark, and like literally every single one of his films that you made me watch, I've been reluctant at first. I'm like, I don't know about this, and then I
Yeah.
watch it, and I'm like, this is my new favorite film.
That is
each time.
exactly
So-
the experience of King. That's how I think everybody experiences King Hu. King Hu is one of these directors that you watch it and you just realize something special is going on, especially if you're watching
Yeah.
a lot of media from that era and that,
Yeah.
that genre. You're like,
Oh,
this
yeah, I
is
don't know.
there's something exceptional here that is like the other stuff is great, but this is one of
Yeah,
this is
no.
one of the peaks of the genre. He's a peak director of the genre.
Yeah, precisely. That's exactly it. And it's the same thing with Kubrick, right? Where like you'll watch movies of the era and you're like, these are brilliant. And then you watch Kubrick and you're like, oh my God. It's like such a spike in quality,
Yeah.
and you're seeing like what is effectively the absolute apex of an art form. And yeah, it's the same way with this dude, he's got it. He's absolutely got it.
And it's kind of a
So, yeah,
shame
I'm
because he
looking
does
forward.
as he goes on, he's got some good movies later on too. Like I still like his Painted Skin. His version of Painted Skin is actually, I think, quite
yeah.
good. But
I
there is a
think he showed
deterioration
Painted
that
Skin.
happens, I think.
I mean, Eyes Wide
His
Shut.
later
Like it happens
movies.
to everybody eventually.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like after watching this again, I think I have to re-rank my King Hu movies because I feel like this is actually. I used to always put Dragon Inn, I think, at the top, and I think I might put this
That's
one
an
above
easy
Dragon
pick
Inn.
for the
Yeah.
top, though.
But I might put this one above Dragon Inn
Ooh.
now, I think.
Ooh, I'd have to rewatch Dragon Inn to make that. I really did like this movie.
I would
I-
too.
I
I
don't
would
know,
need to
man,
rewatch
though.
it again as well before I really made that determination. But
I think with me, whichever one I watched most recently would probably it would jockey for the top spot. I think I think Dragon probably would be the better one in general. It's hard to top Dragon Inn, man. I'm looking forward to Touches In now, watching it for potentially the second time.
I don't know. You tell it. I mean, But I did want to say this one passes. In my opinion, this movie passes the P test because the P test is if you don't get up to go to the bathroom when you have to, because you're engrossed in the film, then it's a successful movie.
That's only
And-
because it's an especially short King Hu film.
Yeah,
It is
but
pretty
I really
short.
had to go. I had to go.
I'm
really
just
bad.
kidding. Yeah. No,
You heard it
I,
here first.
I now I think about it. I like I said, I watched the first 15 minutes last night, and I watched the rest today, and I did not take a pee break during the my.
Well,
You know what?
That's part
I
of getting
literally-
old, Adam, watching the first 20 minutes of movie on one night and then the next day watching the rest of it. Like I'm finding that's becoming my movie watching pattern.
Well,
It's like,
yeah, especially when I'm watching something for the podcast, though, when I start to get tired, because it's also a subtitle movie thing. It's
Yeah.
like you know when you're tired and you're watching a subtitle movie, you realize, oh wait, I haven't read one word for the last minute.
People always knock me for liking the dubs, but I tell them like, like it really, like when you reading at night makes you tired, and if it's late,
Yeah.
you're older like us. We're not old men, but we're like, we're at the age where we have to get medications for things and stuff.
We're not babies anymore. Certainly, we all got a little gray on our whiskers. I was just thinking about this, guys. It passed the pee test for me too. I had to pee for the last half of the movie, and I was like, I'm just gonna watch a little more.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yeah,
and this was on.
If
it
you
was
don't
on
hesitate
Prime,
to
so
hit
it had
pause and go to the
No,
bathroom.
I even when it was on the because I was watching it on Prime, and on Prime it's not free. It's free with ads, so it was longer for me, and I was sitting through ads, tensely waiting for the next moment of the thing. So this really passed the pee test. I was drinking beer last night. I never drink beer.
I must
so I really
admit,
had to go.
I got so sick of the ads on Prime that I bought the higher level Prime account so that I don't have to watch the ads on them.
Yeah.
And I was
worse.
resisting that for so many years because I didn't want them to win, but it just wore me down. The ads wore me down, and I was just like,
They finally just became. Yeah, I don't want to reward them for being more annoying though, so I just got an ad blocker because bite me.
Okay, well that's the other way to go. That's the other.
But
way
I wasn't
to go.
watching it at home last night, so my ad blocker wasn't working. Like curses, someone's obeying the law. Anyway.
But yeah, those ads get so, and also the thing I don't like about the ads is sometimes they'll rejigger everything, and then the movie
and then you have to
you have to like start over or whatever, and then you still if you try to skip ahead, you got to go through. It's just very annoying.
Yeah, the jumping around part is something that really gets me with the ads.
Yeah, I do not like it. But yeah, so I don't know. The strangulation scene. We need to talk about the strangulation scene
tell me about
because
strangling.
So, I mean, it's a grim scene, but the thing is, it's one of the most startling shots in the movie, and it's when Su Feng strangles Angela Mao with, I think she's using rope or something like that, and she might resort to her hands at a certain point. It's a little unclear because the actual strangulation is not on screen.
Yeah, it's right below frame.
Yeah, but it's one of the most impactful deaths because you see her hands like clutching at the sky and in the foreground, and it's just a really weird and eerie shot. And I think part of the reason is because it's the Angela Mao character, and like you said, she's kind of like the head waitress. She's one of the. It's a little unclear on what the real hierarchy of the waitresses is, but she's certainly one of the most prominent waitress characters in the movie, and she's one of the antagonists or one of the protagonists that you're really rooting for the whole time. And so it just gives weight to her death, but it's just a really clever shot in my opinion.
It sticks in your mind when you see it. It takes the intensity and the emotional intensity of that moment, and it really makes it center frame without any actual violence occurring where you can see it.
Yeah,
I think that just being just out of where you can see it lets your mind kind of fill in the worst death for her you can think of. Yeah. And it makes it really like it's a hard watch.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think so prior to that scene, there's a tense exchange where Zhu Feng has been taken prisoner. She's like Li Kan's sister. And Angela Mao's character, the waitress, has been taken prisoner by Li Kan. Or not prisoner, like they're sort of like holding each other hostage.
Yeah, like hostage, yeah.
And they let Zhu Feng go, but she's bound in the rope, and they cut the rope. And I think she uses the rope that was binding her to strangle Angela Mao. And I thought that was kind of like an interest. I could be wrong. Maybe she's using another rope, but
I think you're right, and it's a good example of like how you can't take for granted what's going on in the circumstance, right? Things will shift completely in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Oh God, the whole thing is so wonderfully fluid in that last part where they're doing the actual assassination. There's a lot of good fights in that too. We really haven't talked enough about the intensity of the fights. They are brutal, dude.
Well, one of the cool things, and it's a lot like the final fight in A Touch of Zen. I feel like he's kind of revisiting that same style, like that, not the scene in the forest, but the scene on the rock outcroppings at the end. It feels a lot like that scene to me. But I feel like here he does that one's got like, almost more of like a spiritual theme going on during that battle, which is the whole discussion unto itself. And this one is just, I don't know, it's just a marvelous fight scene. It's captivating from beginning to end. You don't get bored, even though it does, you could accuse it of going on for a while because it starts in the end and it kind of,
well, it does go on for a while, but it's almost like saying that the car chases in Vanishing Point go on for a while. It's like, that's the whole point.
Yeah. It's like complaining about the airplane action in Top Gun, I suppose. Right?
Man, the ship sinks for a long time in Titanic. Yeah, no, it's such empty criticism.
Yeah. But yeah, I that whole scene is great, and again, I love the I think Angela Mao is a really important part of why that works, because she really does bring that that real martial arts to the table. King Hu's he's kind of stylistic. I don't think he particularly cares if the actor knows martial arts or not. He'll just have them lift their hand and then the person will go flying, and it works because he's such a great filmmaker. But it's nice to see her kind of go in there and like really do like, real down and dirty martial arts. I just thought that it worked. But yeah, it's a really good scene. I don't know any other.
There's something so shocking about the way her arms look in that scene too. Like the color is wrong or something, but like deliberately, there's something going on. Like because the way they're shot, they're like, I don't know if they're slightly out of focus or it's where they are in the frame. Like we were talking about before the podcast.
I don't know what it is either.
Yeah,
hands are definitely a theme in this movie. Hands are a theme, like that's even
true.
Down to the fighting, like the way they're fighting, like you get that sense of everybody's hands being used, and so I feel like that might be why that scene is so vivid like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the way they shot it, it's really, there's something that jumps out about it that's uncanny, and it makes the whole thing really uncomfortable.
It's disturbing. It's like a disturbing scene in the movie. But I don't know. I think he does do something with the color. I can't.
There's something going on.
It's got to be deliberate. I mean, just based on everything we know about King Hu and what he's done, I don't think it's like, oh, oops.
Yeah, just an accidental moment of genius. So people who are listening and have been patient enough to sort of sift through our ravings about dementia and whatever.
Yeah, I know. It's been the most rambling podcast we've ever done, guys.
You really you should do yourself a favor and watch The Fatal Lee Khan. It's funny. I don't really read reviews of these movies before we talk about them. I generally don't watch other people's reviews of this kind of stuff in general, unless like Red Letter Media or somebody like that.
I like them. They're a lot of fun. Although I'll generally watch Red Letter Media after I've seen a film or something. Like,
but I did find I won't mention it, but I did find a negative review of The Fatal Lee Khan. So if that's the first, and I think it's one of the first that you might see when you Google it. So ignore what the negative review says if you happen upon the negative review, because I think its points are all not particularly valid anyways.
Listen to our review. That's all you need. Why look at reviews? You've already heard our opinion. You're good.
What else could you possibly need, you plebeians?
But it's a really good movie. And again, it's generally considered part of the In trilogy. So usually Come Drink With Me, Dragon Inn, and Fatal Lee Khan, I think, are the three In movies. And that can be, at some point maybe we should do that. I don't know if we have the stamina anymore, but
jeez, the 12 Days of Fistmas nearly killed us. So
it's funny if you go back and look at the podcast, that's pretty evident, because we go from like doing like a podcast a week to like
one every 3 weeks.
Yeah. It's like the one that killed
more Mad Max.
There was one period on my blog where I was doing like reading a chapter a week from a book and doing entries on it, and it like you can see the burnout in real time.
We had such dreams, everyone. Such dreams did we have.
So you can burn out all of your fuel if you're not careful. But it would be a fun thing to do, though, to do like the In trilogy, and it's kind of like doing it's like the Faith trilogy for Blatty. It's kind of a similar type of idea
Wait,
where
haven't we done the Faith trilogy?
I think we did. Yeah, the Faith trilogy is
Yeah.
The Exorcist,
Yeah. So we did The Exorcist.
the Ninth Configuration, and then
We
The
did the Ninth
Exorcist III.
Configuration.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
no, we did them.
Exorcist. We did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I
Already
think I did that.
accomplished.
I think I intentionally had us go through them too, pretty close to each other. So that
Yeah, no, we actually did
Yeah.
that one. So no,
I
I
think that
think
was early when you're working on Strange Tales of New England.
Yeah.
You had us
Yeah,
do that.
yeah. which now is like probably 5 years ago. But that would be a cool content. Again, we might not do it. Who knows? But if you're interested in this movie, you might want to watch it by first watching Come Drink with Me, then watching Dragon Inn, and then watching The Fate of Lee Khan, because it might give you an interesting perspective on it.
Honestly, just watching Come Drink with Me, that should be like a prerequisite. Like if you're going to get into wuxia films, watch Come Drink with Me, dude. Do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
It's a good intro movie, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very fun movie, and it's got Cheng Pei Pei in it, and everybody will recognize her from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. So
yeah,
and we did a whole Cheng Pei Pei thing last year when she passed away.
Yeah.
So I still have like one or two Cheng Pei Pei films that I want to do on the podcast that I haven't covered.
Hey man, bring them out. I love Cheng Pei Pei.
Yeah. What are they? You got to let us know.
They're kind of like, one of them's like the one that I don't like the most, and one of them is actually a good one. So I have to look at my list. I think it's what is it? The Golden Sword, I think, is one of them. And what's the other? I can't remember the other one.
I think I have the Golden Sword, but haven't watched it, so I'd be up.
Okay.
It's one of my box sets.
Set. Yeah, it's in the box set. I need to get one of them box sets for me for my birthday, which is coming up. By the way, I'm not actually born on Christmas. It's a joke.
So. But anyways, do you guys have anything else you want to add about the movie before we head off?
Before we all pass out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've said all I have to say. I very much enjoyed this. It's a fun movie.
This is a fun movie. Yeah. Again, do yourself a favor. Go watch Fate of Lee Khan. Although we're happy with wasting your time, this movie will not.
Yeah, and this is probably late to mention, but I think that one attraction to the movie is the inn is a very different inn than other inns you've seen. This is sort of like a cave home dwelling type inn, and that really makes a big difference in terms of the feel of the inner environment. So, it's a great movie. Go watch it. And with that, I think we're gonna head out, and we will talk to you later.